is Hido, and welcome to the Pantheon, where it's Innistrad. Horrible things are crawling out of the gutter, and somebody keeps putting them back together. It's Geralf, the visionary stitcher. He sees something in it. Personally, I do not. 3 mana for a 1/4 human wizard. Zombies you control have flying. Now, why is that? Is it because he's stitching wings onto them? No, personally, I like to imagine him just picking up body parts and chucking them into the air. He's got quite a strong arm. Then you can pay a blue, tap and sacrifice another non-token creature. Create an XX blue zombie creature token where X is a sacrificed creature's toughness. So we can turn something into an absolutely massive threat that's going to be flying thanks to Geralf. And it's just a nice sacrifice outlet, which is always good to have. Having it in the command zone is really quite powerful. So we're going to go into a sort of zombie style deck, in my opinion. Really cool commander. And do you know what else is really cool? My YouTube channel. So why don't you subscribe to it? I'm going to be making videos like this for every single legendary creature, so come and join me on my merry way. There's a long way to go, but we'll get there eventually. And without further ado, let's have a look at my top 5 for Geralf. In at number 5... Sorry for the cough. In at number 5, we've got compelling deterrents and things that work with zombies. This is a wonderful card, and you know, bounce spells are underrated in Commander, but there's always a great place for them. Yes, they only remove things for a turn maybe, but if your opponent is paying 7 mana for like an Elish Norn, something like that, then you bounce it back to the hand, well, they've wasted 7 mana, haven't they? You've time walked them. Ooh. And this is 2 mana for an instant. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hands. We could bounce our own things if we have some enter the battlefield shenanigans. That player discards card if you control a zombie. So a nice little bit of zombie sort of synergy there. And the artwork on this, look at that bloke. He's just got arms coming out of everywhere. Not as muscular as mine, but then who's that? It was a joke. So here we go. Other ways to take advantage of the zombie tribe. Hordewing Scab, 5 mana, 3/3 with flying. Other zombies you control are flying. That's a bit similar to our commander. But it's good to have redundancy because commanders tend to get removed and occasionally they, cast them 4 times. And you don't want to cast them for 9 odd mana. So being able to have redundancy is also good. Whenever 1 or more zombies you control deal combat damage to 1 or more of your opponents, you may draw cards equal to the number of opponents dealt damage this way. If you do, discard that many cards. So you can loot through your deck and getting it's not card advantage, but it is digging and, getting you to the big cards that you want to be casting. Then there's emptying of the laboratory. Double blue and X for a sorcery. Sacrifice X zombies. Then reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal that number of zombie creatures cards equal to the number of zombies sacrificed this way. Put those cards onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this really leads us into a zombie deck. We're going to be making zombie tokens with our commander. We can make a lot of other zombie tokens in a lot of other ways. And so this just allows us to sift through the deck and get all of the best zombies out of there. Then there's the Cleaver Scab. 4 mana, 2/4, zombie horror. Pay 3, tap, sacrifice another zombie. Create 2 tokens that are copies of the sacrificed creature. So if we end up making a 12/12 zombie token with our commander, we can then make 2 of them, and then 3, and so on and so forth. It's a bit like a doubling season 4 zombies, really, which is quite nice. Then we've got God Eternal Kefnet, which these are all sort of zombie spells that are interesting, they're not something you'd typically put in a zombie deck. And because we're mono blue, I think we can veer into these more interesting zombies. 4 mana, 4/5 flyer, zombie. You may reveal the first card you draw each turn as you draw it. When you reveal an instant sorcery card this way, copy that card, and you may cast the copy. The copy costs 2 less to cast. And when it dies, you can put it third from top, basically, and it comes back. Hooray. So this, while not amazing in the deck, blue wants to play a lot of spells. And one of my favorite things to do in blue decks is to put in cards that are modal. So things like Archmage's Charm. Yes, it's a counter spell, but we could draw 2 cards or steal a Soul Ring. Or, there's a bunch of cards like this. So having cards like this is great, and it's a zombie that fits the deck. Then Fate Stitcher is a bit of zombie ramp. 4 mana for a 1/2 tap. You may tap or untap another target permanent that includes lands. So it's a nice bit of defense. It gets a Voltron deck, but then it could be used to accelerate you to a massive turn. Or untap our commanders so we can get another sacrifice off. And it's got an earth for a single blue. So you can return this card from the graveyard, it gains haste, and then exile it when it leaves. And then we're playing a lot of zombies. Let's play them for free. I don't like spending mana personally. 6 mana, Rooftop Storm. Enchantment, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for zombie creatures you cast. From zombie spell, creature spells. Creature spells. I got there eventually after much muddling around. So this is really good. Absolutely wonderful. It's mega ramp, really. You can just splurge your hand. And because we're in blue, there's a lot of ways to refill your hand. So don't be too hard on yourself. Which brings me on to number 4. And at number 4, we've got Junk Winder. And this is sort of things that work with tokens because our commander obviously makes a token. Let's make some more tokens and things like that. 7 mana. I always read the 5 and say, 5/6. Serpent with affinity for tokens. So this costs 1 less to cast for each token you control. So potentially just 2 blue mana for a 5/6. Ooh. Whenever a token enters the battlefield under your control, tap target non-land opponent and opponent controls. It does not untap during its control's next untap step. So very soft removal in terms of commander, but great for controlling the board. Again, excellent against Voltron decks. Can really shut down an aggressive opponents. This is so cool, and we're going to be making tokens at instant speed with our commander. So it's really nice. I like it. It's just such a cool card that fits into this deck. So now there's Curiosity Crafter. 4 mana for a 3/3 flying. You have no maximum hand size. Ooh. Whenever a creature token you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And so the great thing about this, with all the zombie tokens and things we're going to be making, well, they've got flying because of our commander. So we can just swoop in there and draw a ton of cards. Then, speaking of making a lot of zombie tokens, Field of the Dead, which you might be saying, ooh, a mono blue deck. You're going to be playing a lot of islands. Well, yeah, you are. Or you could just play loads of cards that just make blue mana for the sake of Field of the Dead. You don't really lose out on anything. Yeah, some of them come into play tapped, but they have incidental effects. You know, like you could sacrifice it to draw 2 cards, things like that. So I'd recommend Field of the Dead because whenever it or another land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So it just adds to the zombie theme that we've got going on. Then the Phyrexian Processor. This doesn't make zombies, but by God can it make a large token. 4 mana for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay any amount of life. Pay for it on tap, put an XX black minion creature token onto the battlefield, where X is life paid as it entered the battlefield. So you can pay 20 life. Okay, I'll make a 20/20 for 4 mana. And then, if you really want the zombie synergies going on, you can sacrifice that 20/20 to our commander to make a 20/20 zombie. Is that good? Well, possibly. It's up to you. At least it's a zombie, it'll then have flying. Hooray, we can swing in for lethal. It's build your own Marit Lage. Oh, magnificent. Speaking of the thing in the ice, it's Marit Lage's Slumber. 2 mana for a legendary snow enchantment. So yes, I've talked about just, playing, non-basics, but if you're playing some basics, make them be snow. Because whenever it or another snow opponent enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. So a nice bit of incidental value, digging you through the deck for whenever you play a land. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more snow permanents, including lands, sacrifice Marit Lage's Slumber. If you do, create a Marit Lage, a legendary 20/20 black avatar creature token with flying and indestructible. There we go. We've built another Marit Lage, although this is the original. Oh no, well, sort of. It's sort of the knockoff because this is based on another card. So, yeah, okay, cool. Then, tokens back from the brink. So 6 mana for an enchantment. Exile a creature card from your graveyard and pay its mana cost. Put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of that card. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast sorcery. So all the zombies we're going to be putting to this deck, well, we can make zombie tokens. Oh, with this, and it gets double use out of everything. And it's really good to have this sort of reanimation, It's, obviously black has great reanimation, but this is blue's equivalent. And because we're playing a token-themed deck, well, it works fantastically. And then this guy looks familiar. It's Stitcher Geralf. 5 mana for a 3/4 legendary human wizard. Pay 3 and tap. Each player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Exile up to 2 creature cards, then put into graveyard this way. Create an XX blue zombie creature token onto the battlefield, where X is the total power of the cards exiled this way. So we're going for power here. This one goes for toughness, but this is just a great way of making tokens. Nice bit of incidental mill that could help us with things like Back from the Brink. So a great card all round. Which takes me to number 3. And at number 3, there's Vedalken Shackles. Because obviously with our commander, we can sacrifice our own creatures. But why don't we sacrifice our opponents? That's better, isn't it? Then we're getting a massive token. They're losing a creature. So Vedalken Shackles, 3-mana artifact. You may choose not to untap Vedalken Shackles during your untap step. Pay 2, tap, gain control of target creature with power less than or equal to the number of islands you control, for as long as Vedalken Shackles remains tapped. So this, leads us into playing a few more basics, but, 7 lands on the field, you're going to probably be able to gain control of most creatures. Absolutely wonderful card. And then with our commander, we can then sacrifice it if this becomes destroyed or something like that to get ourselves a big zombie token. And this is a big theme of the deck for me. It's stealing your opponent's creatures. Mind Flayer is a 5-mana 3/3 horror. Dominate monster. When it enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature for as long as you control Mind Flayer. So again, we can just get that creature, sacrifice it, or wait until our opponents are going to kill Mind Flayer, sacrifice it, then attack in. Brilliant. Does everything we want to do. And if you're playing a flicker style deck, which blue is quite good at, we can flicker this to then steal something else. Domineering Will is a fantastic card. 4 mana for an instant. Target player gains control of up to 3 target non-attacking creatures until end of turn. Untap those creatures, they block this turn if able. We can target ourselves. We can just gain control of 3 things. Sorry about that. If we've got a few ways to untap our commander, we can sack all 3 of them. But this is just so good. Works incredibly in the deck. Sword of Temptations, a classic. 4 mana for a 2/2 fairy wizard. Flying when it enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature for as long as this remains on the field. I wasn't able to read its name. It scarred me once. Many times, actually, I've had plenty of Eldrazi Titans stolen with this card. I hate it. But something else I hate is Beguiler of Wills. 5 mana for a 1/1. Not a good start. Human Wizard, tap, gain control of target creature with power less than or equal to the number of creatures you control. And that steal is actually permanent, so it's so good. And if you're playing around with like untap effects, this is wonderful. You can just end up stealing so many creatures. And then with our commander, we've got a sack outlet to take advantage of. Then there's Kaiga the Tidestar, 6 mana for a 5/5 Dragon Spirit. Flying, when it dies, gain control of target creature. So the great thing is, our commander is a sacrifice outlet, so we can trigger that whenever we want. We can just hold it open, be attacking with a 5/5, and then they play something great. You're like, whoop, I'm going to sacrifice it, get a 5/5 zombie, and steal your best creature. Works amazing. Then there's the classic Mind Control. 5 mana for an aura, enchant creature. You control enchanted creature. Just give it me. It's mine. Absolutely lovely. Look at that big tongue coming out of that monster's mouth. Is it a tongue? Is it a tusk? Who really knows? It must be a tusk, surely, because it's facing that way and the tongue's going that way. Anyway, let's move on into number 2. At number 2, we've got Perplexing Test. And this is... I wanted to build this deck with a sort of token theme, which means hating on non-token and taking advantage of the fact we're going to have a lot of tokens. Perplexing Test, 5 mana for an instant, choose 1. Return all creature tokens to their owner's hand, or return all non-token creatures to their owner's hand. This is fantastic. If we built up a big board of tokens, well, just bounce them. If not, well, just get rid of all the tokens on the field. Someone's swinging for lethal with all the tokens, well, they're now dead. Then there's Ixidron, which takes advantage of non-tokens. There's a lot of research that went into this bit. 5 mana for a star. When it enters the battlefield, turn all non-token creatures face down, which means they become 2/2 creatures on their backside. Ixidron's power and toughness are each equal to the number of face-down creatures on the battlefield. Yes, we could lose our commander to this. It could, get trapped under there. But with all the tokens we're making, we're going to have a massive advantage. We're going to have a 20/20 zombie. Swing in, they've only got 2/2s. You do the maths. Or don't, just swing. They'll have to do the maths, they're blocking. Then there's Overburden, 2 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a player puts a creature card into play, that player returns a land he or she controls to its owner's hand. Now, I believe this has been errated to non-token. And that's why I've included it here. So this is a great way of getting advantage. You know, really mess with your opponents. If we're going down a really token heavy route, we won't get that affected with it. Although, check the errata, I'm pretty sure of that. Then Mistcaller, 1 blue for a Merfolk Wizard. Sacrifice it. At the end of turn, if a non-token creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. So this just gets around tooth and nail, things like that. It doesn't look very powerful, but that incidental value that you gain from it is wonderful. Then Clone Legion. 9 mana for each creature target player controls, create a token that's a copy of that creature. So we're not playing with non-token creatures there, but it makes tokens, so I'm very happy about that. Then Fairy Artisans, 4 mana 2/2 flyer. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, creates a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. Then exile all the other tokens created with Fairy Artisan. So you can get so much value off this. You can get all the enter the battlefield effects your opponent's going to be playing. So good and so powerful. And finally, this Theoretical Duplication. 3 mana instant, whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control this turn, create a token that's a copy of that creature. So, you know, we're making token copies while they're, you know, they've paid mana for them. I'm not paying mana for my tokens, only to make them. And that brings me on to my number 1 selection. And this is all about, you know, big creatures. We want to make big zombies with our commander's ability. And it doesn't come better than Phyrexian Dreadnought. Sadly, very expensive, but just proxy it, who cares? 1 mana for a 12/12 artifact creature. It's got trample, and when it comes into play, sacrifice any number of other creatures with total power 12 or more, or bury Phyrexian Dreadnought. So, what you can do, you play this for 1 mana, our commander's sitting there waiting. The spell resolves. This enters the battlefield, trigger goes on the stack. We respond to that trigger by sacrificing it to our commander. We make a 12/12 zombie and nothing else happens. This just goes to the graveyard. So for 2 mana, we can have a 12/12 flyer. Ooh, that's so good. It's just wonderful. I love it. It just works brilliantly in this deck. And these are some massive creatures that we could be making. Shield's Sphere, 0 mana for a wall. Defender, whenever it blocks, put a -0/-1 counter on it. That classic counter that we've kept playing with. 0/6. So our commander cares about the toughness. So for 0 mana and then 1 blue, you can make a 6/6 zombie. You have to play it. It works so well in the deck. Then there's Charix, the Raging Isle. 4 mana for a 0/17 Leviathan Crab. Spells your opponent's cast that target Charix costs 2 more to cast. And you can pay 3. It gets +X -X until end of turn, where X is the number of islands you control. Island tribals back. This can be fantastic by itself. If you've got 10 islands on the field, you pay 3 mana, it becomes a 10/7. That's alright. But with our commander, you can pay a single blue, sacrifice it, get a 17/17. Oh, that's a big flying zombie, I tell you. And all we had to do was destroy a crab. Phyrexian Soulgorger, 3 mana, 8/8. Cumulative upkeep, sacrifice creature. I don't think we're going to get to our upkeep. I don't think that matters that much. And it's a snow permanent. So that means Marit Lage's Slumber. Well, we'll get a scry off it as well. Phenomenal. Then we got a Wall of Junk. 2 mana, artifact creature, 0/7. When it blocks, return it to its owner's hand at end of combat. So we just turn this into a 3 mana 7/7 if you include the commander's mana. Then the Scab Ruinator, a zombie that I've always liked, but I've just always thought is dreadful. 3 mana for a zombie horror. As additional cast to cost this, exile 3 creature cards from your graveyard. It's got flying, and you may cast it from your graveyard. So if we're filling our graveyard, this can be great. We can keep bringing it back, attacking with it, or then sacrificing it to our commander to make a 6/6. Then there's Vizier of Many Faces, 4 mana, 0/0. This can just come in as anything. It comes in as a copy of anything. And if you embalm it, it comes back as a zombie version of it. And it's a token, which is brilliant. It just works so well. It's so flavorful for the deck. So, absolutely great card. And those are my top 5 for this really quite cool commander. Nice mono blue sack outlet. Who doesn't like that? And who doesn't like massive flying zombies? Well, in fictional senses, anyway. I wouldn't like it to be happening to me now. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please do like, comment, subscribe, and share this with your friends. And I'll see you soon. Bye.